Today we are bringing you the qualifying round of an exciting event that ChessStars set up. The winners of two matches would play on the subsequent weekend. There was 2 weekends of eliminations, and then the finals will be next weekend, this Saturday at 3 p.m. and Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. The first round involved Grandmaster Eltash Safarli against Grandmaster Zivia Zoria, which Safarli won the game and subsequently the match. And in the other round, it was supposed to be Grandmaster Alexander Lenderman against Grandmaster Gadir Husseinov, but Gadir had a bad internet connection in Turkey while he was representing his Odlar Yurdu fantastic team in the European Cup. So at the last second, he was replaced by International Master Orkhan Abdulov, who pulled off a fantastic victory in round 1. So in this game, Alexander Lenderman needed to win, and let's get started. The way the contest is played, you get to invest crowns on the move that you think grandmasters will select, either 5, 25, or 100 crowns. And of course, the more crowns you invest, the larger share you get of the pool. So on the first move, Alexander played d4, which I expected, as did only Victor Mago and Marian Tudoraci. We all put 100 crowns on this, and we won 53 crowns. I expected Orkhan to play g6 as he had against Alex before, and I figured he'd have an improvement in that, but he surprised me with knight f6, and only Victor Mago and Blas Kozmach put 100 crowns on that. They won 144 crowns. So Victor Mago took the early lead with 207 crowns, followed by Blas Kozmach with 157, and Nenad Robula has 59 crowns. Alexander played c4 as expected, yet Victor Mago was the only player to put 100 crowns on this. He won 62, so he expanded his lead. He had 274 over Blas's 165. Now came a big surprise. Orkhan, only needing a draw to win the match, pops out with the Benoni with c5. I thought he was going to play g6. Nenad and Victor put 100 crowns on c5. He won 424. Nenad put 25 on c5. He won 106. So now Victor had a substantial lead, 703 crowns over Nenad's 191. d5 is the normal move, and now a real shock. Only needing a draw, Orkhan made a very brave choice, choosing the Benko Gambit. Well, right now it's not a Benko Gambit yet. This is also known as the Volga Gambit. And Orkhan had previously used this system versus the extremely strong Azerbaijan Grandmaster Shah Mamedyarov in Baku in 2011 and got a draw after 29 moves. Gadir Husseinov put 25 crowns on b5, as did Blas Kozmach and Novak Pazeli, and they all won 158 crowns. So Victor still had the lead with 628 over Blas with 242, and Nenad 180. Gadir had 153 at this point. Takes is the normal move, and now a6 brings us to the normal situation where it is now actually considered a Benko Gambit. And I put 100 crowns on bishop takes a6. I won 63 crowns, as did Sasha Starr and Victor Mago. So Victor still had the lead. Now, the idea of sacrificing the pawn with b5 and a6 is quite old. It's been played by Stahlberg, Karras, many players over the years. Later, Mark Taimanov used it against David Bronstein at the Candidates Zurich 1953. And most of these games began as a King's Indian, with Black only later playing c5 and b5. Maybe the first use of the standard move order was in the Munich Olympiad 1936. Many countries, especially in the Eastern Bloc, refer to this as the Volga Gambit, derived from the Volga River. Beginning in late 1960s, Hungarian-American Grandmaster Pal Benko provided many new suggestions. And right after the Fischer-Spassky match, when I got very, very interested in chess, he published a book called The Benko Gambit in 1974. That was right at the time where we had assembled an extremely strong, the strongest chess team in U.S. history at the University of South Florida. and the Benko Gambit was all the rage back then. It's an interesting gambit because black is obviously trying to get some counterplay on the open and B and A files and get some activity for their pieces. And in the book, Benko drew the distinction between the Benko Gambit and the Volga Gambit with this continuation. Knight c3 is the main move. d6. And three of us put 100 crowns on d6 and won 106 crowns. I did, Victor Mago, and Gadir Husseinov, who was doing the commentary in this match with me. So Victor had the lead with 927. Gadir was second with 319. Nenad third with 277. Now the next few moves are very normal for this opening. e4, challenging the bishop, takes, and now the king has to castle by hand. g6, getting the long diagonal for the bishop. And now g3 is the main line. However, Orkhan's previous experience here was against Mamedyarov, who played g4. Now, I remember in the 90s, Yasser Seirawan had an interesting article in his Inside Chess magazine where he was saying the Benko Gambit was busted, and he actually tried a lot of variations with g4. But today, g3 is the more usual move. Yet only Milan Popovic and Yuri Solodovchenko put 100 crowns on g3. They both won 171 crowns. So Victor Magro still had the lead with 887. Yuri jumped into second with 444. Blotz Kozmach was third with 391. Gadir Husseinov 342, and Nenad Rabula was still fourth with 294. Bishop g7 is normal, and the king fianchettos by hand. It castles by hand, it kind of like fianchettoing. And then castles, nearly everyone had that move. Victor still had the lead with 954, and Yuri had 511. Knight f3, knight d7, and now there's a parting of the Red Sea here. Originally here, white has tried rook e1. However, black has been holding. Another try was queen e2, but I guess white's not in a hurry to define the position of his queen. Very popular today, and the newest trend was what Alex Lenderman actually chose in May in St. Louis against young Russian GM Vladimir Belus, and he won in 37 moves. I was very pleased here. Only Milan Popovic and I put 100 crowns on a4, and we both won 186 crowns. Nenad Rabula and Benjamin Lin put 25 crowns on it. They won 47. Nava Star put 5 crowns. She won 9 crowns. Victor had the lead with 915. I jumped into second ahead of Yuri with 571. Yuri was very close behind me with 530. Milan Popovic 478, and Blotz Kozmach with 441. Now, the normal move here, the fashionable move, is rook a6. And they usually play the move order queen c2, rook a8, rook a3, rook c8, and white has an edge here. Orkhan played a very sharp move indeed. This is the newest attempt at an improvement for black, and Turkish Grandmaster Suat Atalik really thinks that is the best way for black to proceed here. Only Michael Barone put 25 crowns on queen b6. He won 175 crowns. Yet the leaderboard really did not change very much. Now, in the post-mortem, Gadir and Alex both said that queen e2, which has been tried the most often, including by Carlsen and Nakamura, would have been the best choice. Followed by rook b8, knight b5, knight e8, a very important move to challenge the knight on b5. And bishop g5 is sometimes played. And even though this is a fairly okay line for black, white still keeps his edge, as in Carlsen, Balagan, Beal, 2012. Now, I did some research on this. I don't play this opening, but I did find that the fashionable move now, which was Suat Atalik's contribution to theory, is rook a3. White does not rush to deploy his queen yet, and this gets to be a very interesting game. Suat's had a lot of success with this. Rook fb8, queen c2 covering the b3 square, c4, rook d1, knight g4, knight b5, knight c5, and white has a very comfortable game here. Well, Alex came along with rook e1, which is a very strange move indeed. And I think he began losing the thread of the opening here. Michael Barone took 25 crowns on rook e1. He was the only one. He won 500 crowns. The rest of us got buried on queen e2 and lost 100 crowns. So, in the aftermath of all that, Victor still had the lead. Victor Magro 925, Michael Barone 875, close behind. Yuri Solodovnichenko 570, Milan Popovic 488, and I dropped to fifth with 481. What is black to do? Well, the answer is very simple. Go for counterattack on the b file. And you see the whole reason for this gambit now. Black has terrific development for his pieces and tremendous counterplay along the b file. So, of course, white wants to shut this down with knight b5. Very strong knight. And it's a very important decision now for black. He has to play knight e8 in order to liberate his bishop g7, head to c7 to rid himself of the white strong knight b5 in order to get his typical counterplay on the b file. Alex played a novelty here. Queen c2. It's never been done before. 3 people put 25 crowns on it and won 115 crowns. Michael Barone, Sasha Starr, and Novak Pezelli. Michael Barone took over the lead with 1,037 crowns. Victor Magro dropped in a second with 952. And Yuri Solodovnichenko was far behind them with 596. Now, the correct move here for white is knight d2. Now, if black continues with the normal knight c7, knight c4 is pretty good for white. And if he goes knight e5, well, rook a3 is a pretty good move. It's never been played. In actual play, there was some weak players that played queen c2 here, but I think white has a pretty good edge here. He should have played knight d2. He played queen c2. Knight c7 is box. Alex has to take. Orkhan has to take. And now, the engines came up with a fantastic idea here of rook a2. Now, Alex did consider rook a2, yet unfortunately he didn't envision there's a substantial difference between rook a2 and rook a3. Let's look at rook a2. Queen b7 is obvious. And then white has to be careful. If he goes with bishop d2, queen b3 is coming. Black is not afraid at all of trading queens in these positions because he still has a fantastic counterplay and endgame. Bishop here, takes, and now rook b1, rook c4, rook b7, knight f6. This actually gets pretty tricky. a5, rook b4, takes, and now in the postmortem they had looked at knight d4, but this fails to knight takes e4 and knight c6, knight c3, and I think black is actually standing pretty well there. So he would have had to have tried knight d2 here, and after knight d7 I think we have a level position. But white actually could have maintained an edge with rook a2, queen b7, rook e3 to stop the penetration of the queen to b3, and I actually think that's probably the way the game would have gone. But I guess Alex figured rook a3 was a good decision because that also was going to stop any penetration of b3, he thought. Only Milan Popovic and Dusan Milojevic put 25 crowns on rook a3. They both won 465 crowns. Yet Michael Barone still held the lead with 10.46 over Milan with his 9.86, and Victor was not too far behind with 8.95. Rook b4 is a very strong move. b3, that b3 pawn becomes a thorn in Alex's side, trying to defend that thing. And Orkhan went for it right away with c4. And here Alex played far too quickly. This was the deciding moment of the game and the match in all actuality. And although I don't think very many people really knew that at the time, I sure didn't. Because I was the only one that put 100 crowns on the lousy move that Alex chose here, which was bishop d2. And I won 124 crowns. Nenad Rabuli, my friend, also put 25 crowns on it at 131. So Michael Barone still had the lead with 10.93. Milan Popovic was close behind with 10.15. Victor Mago 9.88. Marian Tudorache 6.12. Yuri Solodovnichenko 6.25. And I was all the way down to 6 with 5.34, but at least I was still in the hunt. What Alex could have done here, and Gadir pointed this out very quickly, and the engine saw this, bishop e3. This move is far stronger than it appears on the surface. It would be very easy for black to slip up here with knight c5, and b takes c4. White's got a great advantage, and even worse if he's to play rook a b8, which looks like a natural move. Now, they had looked at rook c1, knight c5. That's equal, but white still can just take that pawn. Black can't capture back because of the incredibly strong queen d3, and now rook b4, a5. And the pawn is marching. So black would have actually had to have found knight e5 here, followed by knight d4, and then maybe try to chip away at the center with e6. And white's got a very playable game. After bishop d2, well, it was funny why Alex played this move. He actually wanted to induce black to play c3 to take pressure off his b3 pawn. But now there's serious trouble in River City. And the bishop that already moved to d2 is moving at the rate of a pawn or a king. Now he goes to e3. And Milan Popovic took over the lead by putting 100 crowns on bishop e3. He won 143, as did Gadir Husseinov, Victor Mago, and Blas Kosmach. Milan now had 1179. Victor had 1152. Michael Barone 1101. And then Marian Tudorache and Yuri Solodovnichenko were far behind with 549 and 546. Alexander needing to win this game in order to win the match now is going to have a very difficult time trying to find any kind of counterplay for winning chances. It seemed like knight c5 was an automatic move here. However, the follow-up was not so easy to see, as Gadir pointed out during the broadcast. e5 certainly for white, but then black has to find a very hard move, knight a6, and he's got equality here. He also could have tried maybe chipping away at the center. White doesn't have to take, but he probably would. And then rook d1, knight e5 is also equal. Orkhan played queen a5. And only Navistar and Novak Przele put 25 crowns on that, and they both won 465 crowns. But Milan still held the lead, 1159. Michael Barone 1081. Victor Mago 1057. Novak 800. And Yuri Solodovnichenko in fifth with 526. Now, Alex came up with a very odd move here. Gadir was recommending h4 just to get some activity. Knight c5, that's equal. Rook d1 would have been another shot, with rook a8, ab8 being equal. Alex played rook a1, and he's wasted an awful lot of moves with his bishop and his rook, and black is taking great advantage of that. This is a particularly bad move, which no one had. No winners, all stakes were held over. And of course, Orkhan played knight c5, forcing white to take on c5 because the b3 pawn is now hanging. A bunch of us, 5 of us actually, put 100 crowns on knight c5 and won 260 crowns. It was me, Milan Popovic, Nenad Rabula, Victor Mago, Blas Kosmach. So Milan Popovic still held the lead, 1429. Victor Mago second, 1227. Michael Barone, 1041. Novak Pezelli 760, and I moved into fifth with 630. White has to take on c5 or else lose the pawn. So he's got to give up a bishop for a knight. And now, another strange move. It's not so strange because he's got to defend the pawn. I say it's strange because I don't like having to defend pawns with rooks. Passive defense always leads to trouble. But what else was White going to do here? Igor Vaklimov, Yuri Solodovnichenko, Gadir Husseinov, and I all put 100 crowns on this move. Reluctantly, because it's all White can really do. And 182 crowns. Milan held on to the lead. And only Yuri Solodovnichenko came up with rook c8. Orkhan took quite a bit of time on that move. And it was a surprise to all of us except for Yuri. So Milan held the lead again, 14:44. Michael Barone, 12:37. Yuri jumped into the hunt with 12:22. And Victor Mago had 11:67. Other choices here for black would have been rook b8. And then rook e3 is equal. Or queen b6 and then e5. A lot gives White a little more activity. So rook c8 kind of forces rook e3. Everybody had that. And bishop h6. Pretty obvious move. 4 people put 100 crowns on that, 137. Dusan Milevich, Yuri Solodovnichenko, Gadir Husseinov, and Marian Tudorache. This gave Yuri the lead, though. So Yuri was up with 1369 ahead of Milan with 1329. Michael Barone, 1273. Now, this was Alex's last chance to try to get some complications. What he could have done here was tried knight e1, let the rook hang, and on queen c7, play f4, but on takes, then he's got the fork u with knight d3, queen a5, knight b4, queen takes b4, and f takes c3, and at least you got a gobbledygook mess compared to black just having clear play and advantage. So Alex played rook e2. Milan Popovic, Yuri Solodovnichenko, and Blatz Kozmach, all 162 crowns on that. So Yuri expanded his lead, 1536, Milan 1496, and Michael Barone 1253. Only 2 people came up with the next move by Orkhan, which was queen b6, and that was Dusan Milevich and Navastar. They both put 100 crowns on it, and they won 231 crowns. Yet it did not affect the leaderboard whatsoever. Now, Alex saw knight e1 a little bit too late here. I put 100 crowns on it, as did Gadir and Marian Tudorache. We all won 99. Too little, too late for all of us. Milan Popovic held on to the lead with 1506. Yuri not too far behind with 1471. Michael Barone with 1321. Now, bishop g7 is certainly playable, knight d3 and rook d4, but Orkhan played rook d4 right away. A lot of people had that. And then, Alex played another poor move. I thought he was going to try to at least get some sort of pawn break with f4. Maybe bishop g7 then, with equality. Knight f3 just doesn't do anything because black just moves the rook back, and then knight e1, and that's a draw, and white needs to win. So Alex forced the situation with knight d3, and it's just a bad move. Orkhan, Dusan Milevich and Matsu Leon both put 100 crowns on that and got 493. So now Yuri's lead was 1480 to Milan's 1381. Orkhan's move was pretty easy to find. Queen a6, black's got the edge. And now, rook d1 just falls to bishop d2. Very, very great position for black. So Alex played the only move he could to try to get some activity and stop the penetration, knight f4. Now, Gadir and I both thought that Orkhan would rip the bishop, take back, and then either queen a5 or e6. Takes, and black's got a nice slight edge. No way to lose the match. Orkhan played a very quiet move here. Rook c7. And only Milan Popovic figured that one out. Milan put 25 crowns on it and won a whopping 1,310 crowns and took a gigantic lead. He now has 2,783 crowns. Yuri Solodovnichenko, 1511. Michael Barone, 1279. Victor Mago, 1080. And Dusan Milievich, 948. So, what was really strange about this is Alex's reaction. He really didn't have anything better than b4. But for some reason, decided he could challenge a rook and played rook d1. Now, you might want to switch off the tape for a moment and see if you can see why that's a lousy move. But Igor Vaklimov put 100 crowns on it and won 805 crowns, but he didn't even hit the board. So nothing changed in the leaderboard after that. The problem with rook d1 obviously takes. Queen has to take. Bishop takes the knight. And if you move rook a2, bishop d2 saves the bishop. And if you take the bishop, as Alex did, well, Black's got a fantastic move here that ends the match. Queen takes e2. And Alex resigned because after queen takes e2, the pawn just queens. c1. So, very quick game. Very impressive display and a risky display by Orkhan Abdulov of Baku, an international master, taking down the great Alex Lenderman, who's been on a tremendous streak lately, winning the U.S. Open and having a very fine result in the World Cup. Yet Orkhan won this game, a nice miniature, swept the match, and congratulations to Orkhan. He will now play Eltash Safarli this weekend in the final. They're both from Baku. They know each other very well. And I expect a very, very exciting match. And mad props to Milan Popovic for winning the contest, almost doubling the output of Yuri Solodovnichenko, 2874 crowns. He got 34 moves right, 18 for white, 16 for black. Yuri won 1602. He had 39 moves correct. Yuri actually had more moves correct than anyone else in the contest, but it was that one move by Milan that won the whole thing for him. I finished 10th. Michael Barone was 3rd. Victor Mago 4th. Dusan Milievich 5th. Blotz Kozmach 6th. Novak Pazelli 7th. Matsi Leon 8th. And Benjamin Lin 9th. Congratulations to everyone who won cash the same day from the contest, and I hope we can see you all at ChessStars this weekend. ChessStars.com, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, Saturday and Sunday, for the exciting battle of the boys of Baku, Eltash Safarli against Orkhan Abdulov. Thank you.